Hi, I'm Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin.
And I'm Arthur Nolan.
And welcome to Making It Work. Once again, Making It Work comes to you and trying to empower our families and help our families with good information, tools to help you to make it work. Today, we have a very special guest. I have known her since she was a little girl, running around the Burns Seventh-day Adventist Church in Detroit, Michigan. But about, I would say maybe 15, 20 years, she'll tell you more in exact dates. Something changed in her life, and we want her, Miss Ayana Gardner, to tell her testimony. Welcome to Making It Work, Ayana.
Dr. Nolan and Sister Nolan, I'm so glad to see you today, be here with you on this program.
Oh, well, we thank you.
Thank you.
We have watched you grow and develop, and just a blessing to everyone that crosses your path. You're such a sweetheart. But now,
also worked with me with the Motor City Youth Federation.
Absolutely.
And we had a great time too.
Yes,
that was
we
the
did.
first federation. Where was it at? The Coleman Young Rec Center, downtown Detroit.
I believe so. It's been such a long time.
Yeah, right.
So,
and the Motor City Youth Federation is a organization that brings our youths together within our churches, within the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And at one time, my husband served 11 years for the Motor City within the Detroit area and surrounding areas. Yes, how many churches?
21.
21 churches, you know, and I was first lady. I was so happy. So, Ayana, we want to hear your testimony and like you to take our viewers through what happened to you in the middle of your life, in the high point of your life. Tell us what happened.
well, I can tell you that it has been an uphill battle ever since about the year 2000. Shortly after, I was married at a young age. Unfortunately, that situation did not work out. But I have been having some really strange health symptoms following that, experiencing blindness in the matter of 3 days.
Really?
What?
In the year 2000. Thought it was just a slight muscle or eye strain in my eye, and over the course of 3 days, lost my eyesight completely in the left eye. Was treated with steroids over the course of maybe 3-4 days. And over the next couple of months, it slowly but surely came back. So I thank the Lord for that. But my story is like many others who start off with the disease multiple sclerosis, which is very life-altering. And at the age of about 22 to 23 is when I really started having battles with it. Lots of fatigue, numbness and tingling, from the legs all the way to the waist, and then losing the feeling in my arms all the way to my shoulders. And walking around and not being able to feel the very hands I used to shake at school. After about a year of not disclosing a lot of these things I was going through personally, I finally decided to go to the hospital at a major hospital in Detroit, Michigan. Was there for roughly 3 or 4 days while they ran some tests.
Excuse me, let me interrupt you for 1 second.
Yes.
Are you saying that you didn't tell anyone when you were going through these symptoms? You just kept it to yourself?
Lots of times I kept it to myself thinking maybe it's stress or post things from a relationship.
Okay.
And I didn't really disclose a lot of information.
Okay.
I went to William Beaumont where they did lots of experiments on me. And unfortunately, after 3 or 4 days of being poked and prodded on, they came back and said that without a shadow of a doubt, it was multiple sclerosis. And that was pretty devastating, not only to my intermediate family, but to my church family. You know, there had been no record of anyone that we knew with the illness. A lot of information had not been out on it at that time. So it was pretty devastating to find out I had it. And at that time, it was an incurable disease. My parents, who have been a beacon to me since then. They were surrounding me and shielding me with a lot of things. We had some friends who were medical professionals who had attended some conferences in another state, and they were speaking to my parents because they had recently found out my diagnosis and had learned of some doctors overseas in the Germany area that had done some experimental work on multiple sclerosis, and was willing to give my parents the numbers to these doctors to get in contact with them because I was progressing within the disease quite fast. Losing everything, any bodily function you can think of, being able to walk and be able to use your limbs without really feeling them. Some other things, the endless fatigue, lots of emotional backdrop to a lot of things. It was roughly about 5 months later, 4 or 5 months later, once my progression had really gotten pretty bad, that some of our doctor friends and my parents, over the river and through the woods, they got in touch with this doctor. He was going to be back in the States for another medical conference. And so the original plan, I believe, if I can remember, was to fly me to this other state with my parents, and we have a meeting with this doctor. Well, because my health was really weakened, they didn't want to make me make that long flight to another state like that, not knowing what would happen. Well, with much prayer and much power, somehow the doctor agreed that he had a little bit of time, a window of time between some meetings that he was having, and he was willing to fly to Detroit, Michigan, from halfway across the world to meet me.
My Lord.
So they got the arrangements together, and the interesting thing, which is one of the most powerful things of the testimony, all of my medical records were hung up in a hospital here. Being that he was across seas, he had no access to anything of mine. I could barely walk and was really wobbly, but I managed to get to a hospital here that had my medical records. Unfortunately, the person that had given me the information where my records were told me the wrong location on a very large hospital facility ground that just by walking would take every bit of 25, 30 minutes. And I knew I couldn't do it. And God places you at the right place at the right time. A young gentleman who was one of the transport personnel for the medical facility actually saw me looking sort of disoriented as I was trying to figure out how am I going to get to the other side of this medical campus. And he offered to take me over there, put me on his transport vehicle, and drop me off in front of the building. To make a long story short, it was a woman there who got access to all my medical records. And mind you, this is after the office was closed. Because I was dropped there just a few minutes after I knew the office was closed, but my spirit, the Holy Spirit, I believe, told me to go ahead, and someone will be there to assist you. And within an hour and a half, after being totally put from here to there, this lady at the hospital got access to my records, and thus I was able to get them to Dr. Frank. And within that week, they said, Ayana is your choice. You can probably imagine what it felt like to be able to have a foreign medicine be experimented on you and done with this, not knowing what could happen. And just by faith, trusting that God had another plan for you to accept the treatment, accept the clinical treatments, and progress along with what the plan was. Well, they prayed over me, and several people were there, and they told me the moment that you feel anything funny, you let us know. First treatment went well, and second and third and fourth, and so on. And I was treated a series of about 4 to 5 different times over several months within a year, skipping a few months at a time. And to end it all, I will say, my sister, my youngest sister, I have 2 sisters, which I'm the oldest of all 3 of us. My youngest sister was getting married in the year that I was treated. And I received my very last treatment the day before she was married, and was able to walk down the aisle in heels, no walker, no cane. And
Hey, I
ever
want to
since
say
then,
something. I like being able to walk in the hill.
I know.
That's a
God has
blessing.
been good ever since.
Yes.
Oh, that's a blessing.
I've had a few other instances where some things has happened due to some other things with medical things. It's so interesting. MS can be triggered by many things. And a lot of times, even right now, I believe the Lord, He allows you to have certain illnesses. But when you're a testimony for Him, you know, you can walk around with some major illnesses and really not be affected by it.
Yeah.
I've had MS for about 14 to 15 years.
Wow.
And maybe longer, and just didn't know what was going on. It's been dormant there. But God has watched me ever since. I literally walk by faith. Just recently, I stopped walking with a cane, actually. After I was treated back then, I only had one other situation that was pretty devastating, dealing with MS, but it was caused by a tooth being pulled too soon.
Okay.
And the bacteria sort of leaked into my system, triggered the MS. So I know not to do that too soon anymore. But ever since then, it's been upward mobility. God has brought me from the bed, from the wheelchair, and from the cane recently. And so I thank the Lord for that.
The medication, are you still taking that same medication, or?
I've taken no formal medication for over 10 years. About 10
Are you
years.
serious? My goodness.
Now, have you changed your
19
diet,
years.
as far as what you eat, in your sleep pattern? Has it improved, or did it, because, the pain that you were experiencing, because your muscles were uncomfortable. So was it a diet? Are you using a special diet now?
I'm getting ready to start a more diet that's more regimented. One thing that I don't know if it's exactly from the MS or not, but I was pumped with a lot of steroids. And unfortunately, when you're not as mobile, you're not able to use muscles, and you tend to retain a lot of stuff. So I had gained quite a few pounds over the years. And by many people, especially those who are close to you, sometimes will remind you that you've done that, unfortunately. Sometimes we must understand, Dr. Nowlin, that people don't know your story.
That's right. Come on now.
And the pastor of my church, I love when he preached that. He's a wonderful pastor. And when he preaches that, it makes so much sense. And I will say that, God will do what He will do in that reign, because that's another journey to take. But I'm so thankful that God has brought me through what He has. Losing your voice and losing everything, I used to sing quite a bit.
Yes, beautiful voice. Ayana has a beautiful voice.
Yes, and I'm thankful to the Lord, through one of our wonderful choir directors at our church, Miss Iris Hankins, and our whole music committee, who stands behind the music ministry. And she tries to strengthen my voice through exercises and things like that. Very encouraging. And when you have people like that to surround you, your health and your healing comes more and more real. It becomes more and more real.
I was visiting your church 2 weeks ago, and at the end of the Sabbath school, one of the department heads stated that you would be taking over because she was going to be taking a leave of absence.
Yes.
I saw you get up, and I watched you, and it hit me. I said, Ayana doesn't have a cane. And I watched you walk all the way up. You were sat down, she called you, got up and walked again, and you stood up for a good period of time. And I said, look at the Lord. I was so happy for you.
Yeah.
And let me say this. One thing about Ayana, her countenance, your whole character, has never changed. You have remained kind and sweet, loving. And that song, I Shall Not Complain. And you continue to stay with the Lord. You never left the Lord. You never questioned God. Why?
Well, one thing, when you are, as I stated before, raising a strong family, first of all, no family's perfect. But I must say, I have a supportive grandparent and parent foundation, of which I've watched them go through many things. And one thing I remember is that the Lord sometimes has seasons in your life. After a relationship that did not last, and the Lord always expects us to forgive, not just that person, but to be able to forgive ourselves and move on. And so I love those individuals even yet to this day. But I will say that the healing and the release is one reason why the healing physically has taken place. A lot of things that we attempt to keep on the inside, they manifest themselves on the outside. But when you learn to release, that release happens and you have a better outlook on things in life. I will say that, you know, I never questioned God in purpose or got in public and got angry. There were times in the back of your mind, as with Job, we know his story. And I just felt the Lord was saying, just hold on. Everything is going to be okay. And in those many dark nights when you're alone sleeping in your bed and you're just wondering what's going to happen for the next day, especially when someone is not there to give you a hug or to tell you things all the time, or when you're alone, God whispers those sweet, small, still reminders that you are still his daughter. And he specifically told me, Ayana, I know your name. And the Lord hasn't forgotten my name, not to this day. Just recently, not too long ago, able to have full-time employment again after a hiatus for 3 years or so. And weathering those emotional storms from leaving one company, going to another, and all of the gaps in between. But the Lord never forgot my name.
I love that.
He never forgot my name.
Have you ever heard it spoken like that? The Lord has never. He knows my name.
I think I've heard somebody sing
it,
you
and
know,
hands of praises done a song.
you know,
but to hear someone say it,
Right.
the Lord knows my name.
That's a real deep commitment, you know.
And your faith.
But
and your walk.
he's brought you out of some stuff, you know, as some of the people would say, you know, you went through some stuff and still
Absolutely.
you've held on to your relationship with the Lord. And you didn't do like what Job's wife said, why don't you just curse God.
Curse him.
And die.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
There was one point in my life I did feel, Lord, you set me on the shelf like one of these beautiful vases sitting here. And the Lord probably chuckles and laughs at our ignorance because he said, now you're in the very position you need to be for me to bless you and bring you. I'm going to give you double for your former trouble. And there were some things that had happened in my life even prior to this that were very devastating, but as with anything, a life lesson. Individuals, even personal things. But I thank the Lord that he's brought me through them.
Amen.
You know, it's so interesting because, you know, a lot of times individuals not knowing that I even had multiple sclerosis because they're saying, lady, you look so well. But that's a sign of contentment on the inside. And it's simply because, as I stated before, the good Lord knows my name.
Amen. Amen.
And he's restoring so many things in my life again, including relationships, both personally and collectively.
You think you'd like to get remarried? Marry again?
Eventually I will. The Lord has brought a special young person in my life, again, after being single 7 or 8 years for a long time. You have to do a lot of self-healing first, especially when a relationship has a lot of factors to it.
Yes.
And, you know, you live and learn. You don't want to take baggage into another relationship. But as I'm older now and had a chance to learn a few things, you know, you move on and you don't keep holding those bitter grudges, not only against the individual, but against yourself. And not believing that you don't have or you don't deserve to be loved again. And loved right. And that's the most important thing.
Wow.
It always takes two to tango in a relationship. So I will never blame anyone for anything, you know, just solely themselves. But at the same time, when you look to someone and you value and you admire that person and they let you down, that could be devastating to you. But now, you know, looking forward, I look for the Lord to bless what's there. A lot of times as young women, we tend to look for the knight in shining armor. And sometimes the good Lord will send you someone in a jeans and t-shirt.
All right. All right.
Don't need the armor. I like that. The jeans and
The
t-shirt.
armor's nice, but even God himself was not brought to this world in the finest of everything. He came in the plain clothing and swaddling clothes and the cloth as we know, and his own people didn't recognize him. And he was the savior of this world. Sometimes we bypass people because their outward shell or their appearance or their book covers, as we would say, it doesn't match up with what our ideal is. And yeah, sometimes you get ridiculed with that, but only between you and that person, you really know how you feel about each other. Yes, the counsel and yes, the opinions and everything, they can weigh in your relationship, but they should not control you.
Right, because people don't really know what you've gone through.
They absolutely
They don't know your story, you know.
No, they don't.
Yeah. So
Supportive, yes, but totally in the know to know everything, not really.
So what's ahead for you now? You said your music, recording. You thinking about recording?
I hadn't looked into that vision before. I have a cousin who has a magnificent voice, and she records. I would love to do a number with her or do something in the background with her. I love to write, being an English major, being a person who has an English degree. Looking forward to doing a master's this year. I feel healthy enough to get back into that. And just get back into a lot of things. I can just about run again. So.
Oh my God. So I heard you mention something. Parlez-vous français?
Oh yes, I speak French. Yes.
Oh, no,
Je parle
Kim.
beaucoup français, mais je suis américaine.
Oh,
What did she say,
oui. Formidable. Formidable.
Those are the same things, same words I hear you say every time.
That's all right there in French.
Yes.
Give me some more.
You know, oui.
All right, you done
Français.
it. Oh,
Bonjour.
yeah. Okay.
Bonjour, Monsieur
That's a
Arthur.
start.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you come on back?
No, I cannot.
That's
You can't see, you know,
That is
folks ready to hate on you because you do a little something, you know.
Yes.
You know.
I cannot come back.
You
here.
know, I didn't know you spoke Francais, French. I didn't know
Yes,
that.
I had a teacher in high school. My first encounter with it was in my early high school years. And I heard of it before then, but not as much. And one of my favorite teachers in high school, she had my interest quirked in it. And all through high school and the rest of college, and even after college, I kept it in mind. Actually, we went on a cruise, my family, a few years ago back. Unfortunately, I was in a wheelchair then. Took a cruise in a wheelchair and enjoyed myself like any person should. We landed in an island that was a French-speaking island for one of our ports of call. And being that I knew how to speak French, I could tell the gentleman that we were visiting there and could he find me a wheelchair. And he was very, very cooperative and was kind of excited that I could speak in French. And my grandparents were with me, and my grandmother was so excited. That's my granddaughter that knows how to speak French. But
That's great.
I had a wonderful time on that cruise. You know, just because you're handicapped, even when you're down, you should still enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
But it's
In fact, I think I actually got up a few times and tried to push my wheelchair or hold on to it.
it's kind of
that time.
difficult, though, unless you really have a strong relationship with the Lord. And most importantly, when you realize that you can contribute, you can do, you know, and that takes a lot of prayer and a lot of strength for you to make a decision that I'm not going to lay down. I'm not going to let anything prevent me from enjoying my life, you know. So that was really important. That was really important.
Ayana, let's talk about the doctor who assisted you and how did he come about to be in your life?
Well, the doctor's name was Dr. Niels Frank. Unfortunately, at this time, we have reason to believe that he passed away. If we haven't heard from him in several years. But this doctor was like an angel in disguise. Unfortunately, he himself had MS. But by the time he treated himself, he was a doctor, he had lost the ability to use his legs. So when he came here to the States, he was already in a wheelchair. They had examined me at one of our friends here in the United States, a medical professional here. And he held my hand and rolled up to me next in his wheelchair. I was sitting in a chair. They got me in a chair and said, Ayana, you're definitely in MS and you're in an exacerbation now. But if we can catch your symptoms at the stage of MS you're now, we can bring you about 90% out of the disease. And so the decision was basically mine. And what it was a series of medicine that I was treated with for intervals, 7 weeks, intervals in between to maybe 2 months or so, 2 or 3 months, and to be treated again for a block of 5 to 7 days.
Were they injections? I'm sorry.
They were injections. They were infusions of medicine just from a simple vial that were bought over here by the doctor himself or shipped over here, as a package, fully, contained in everything. And it was some nurses here who helped to bridge the gap when he could not be over here in the States to treat me, and they knew how to infuse me. One of them was my aunt, one of my favorite aunts, who has been there with me through many, many things in my life, my Aunt Janora Jones. And she did my very last infusion for me the day before my sister got married. And God truly saw me through that whole thing. One thing that I experienced about the third series of treatments, I really didn't see too much happening the first and second treatment. But it was interesting, at the third treatment, something really funny happened. Just as many women like to get their nails done or get manicured or pedicured, I noticed that my nails, it's commonplace if you have a small white line or something on one of your nails, but I noticed that all my fingernails had white lines straight across them, all of my fingernails. What was interesting was that my toenails had the same thing, and I just progressively saw them go further and further up my nail. To make a long story short, I had a whole new set of feet and toenails and hand nails. Wow. It was if like I was sloughing off something. Also, my hair grew immensely long again. It was several things that happened. A lot of skin fell off. A whole lot of things. It was just like something was coming away. And there was a rebirth of some new things there. So slowly but surely, lots of things came back over time.
So it's just so much information. We have 47 seconds. I just want to thank you for coming because it's so important that you, who may have multiple sclerosis, to know that you can survive it. Yes. God can bring you through it. It's the faith of this young lady. Ayana, we wish you all the best and God's blessings.
We really appreciate you coming. You've been so informative. I know that a lot of people will definitely get in contact with the station because they want to hear more.
And I'm more willing to talk to anyone. I have several friends here in the city who are either wheelchair bound or struggling with the illness that I pray for all the time because they understand the same battle I go through. And I pray that the Lord will see them through the same thing.
Okay.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us today. I'm Dr. Kim Logan-Nowlin.
I'm Arthur Nolan.
And thank you for joining us on Making It Work. God bless.
God bless.